light off. Okay, so now that I'm situated, while I wash everything, we have episode 2 of Tea and Tweeze. And honestly, when I was thinking about this, literally the first person I thought of that I wanted to talk to was you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we have Casey Cassis.
Yep.
We just went over this. Here today, keep closed. We are doing some brows and lashes on her, but I really wanted to reach out because of her journey with everything, from having a few really successful neighborhood restaurants, Mr. Sizzles, and now Augies, and everything that you go through, and your journey with your son and his CHD, right?
Yep.
So yeah, she's here today. We're gonna pamper her like she deserves. And I just really want to learn more about all that and spread awareness and put some different links and stuff out there, get it on different platforms for people to help out with anything like that. So thank you.
Well, thank you for having me.
I'm
excited to be here and to be pampered. It's been a hot minute.
I was going to say, when's the last time you've had your lashes or brows done?
Oh my gosh. I honestly couldn't even tell you.
Really?
Self-care has taken a bit of a back burner after the crazy year that we had. So
yeah, I mean, I obviously follow what you share and the journey you guys have been going through with all of that, but I'm sure there's so much more to it. Open and look up towards me a little bit. By the way, to start, how is your son?
He is doing okay.
We had surgery, right?
Yeah, we had an emergency brain surgery over on Thursday.
Wow.
So unexpected, but he's bounced back very quickly, and we're home already. So
yeah, it's amazing.
Kind of hard to believe that someone could have brain surgery and then literally get discharged 48 hours later, but here we are.
It's incredible. You know, I was looking at it yesterday, and I'm like, how strong he is, what the human body can do.
It's definitely, it's resilient. It's wild to see all the things that he's gone through. So this was his third brain surgery in 3 years, and he's had 2 open heart surgeries and then a bunch of cardiac catheterization procedures, which basically just means that they go in through an artery and then they can coil things or cauterize things inside the heart. I don't quite understand it, but we do a lot of those surgeries in Rochester, and now he's listed for a heart transplant in Boston.
Okay, that's where I've seen Boston too, that you guys have been to a lot.
Yeah, so Boston Children's Hospital is considered our home hospital.
Okay.
Because in Buffalo, interestingly enough, there is no cardiac care at Oshai.
Really? Where are they sent to?
Rochester. So
what if it's like an emergency?
Rochester.
Wow. I know like Mercy has like heart units and stuff, but that's not children.
Correct. Right? Yeah, that's just that's for adults. So Buffalo General and Mercy does cardiac care for adults, but for kids, there's nothing. There's actually not even a cardiac anesthesiologist or a cardiologist on staff at Children's, which is just crazy.
What's not the reasoning, but how do they justify that that is not having that?
Honestly, I have no idea. I mean, the hospital gets a ton of funding. You would think that they would have something for cardiac care, considering it's the number one birth defect, but they have nothing. So we've spent a majority of of our time in Rochester over the last 3 years with him.
Mm-hmm.
And now since August of 2024, we've been traveling back and forth every like 4 to 6 weeks to Boston for various procedures and heart transplant evaluations and then his listing. So we actually head back there in a few weeks.
That is all while you're working, going to school.
Yes.
You own, I mean, do you have more than 24 hours in the day than I do? Because that's insane.
It's been a very wild 12 to 15 months.
Yeah.
But it didn't really start out that way. I mean, Augie was like our number one priority always.
Mm-hmm.
And we spent a ton of time in the hospital. We've done probably like 320-ish days inpatient in either a critical care unit or an ICU. So
was he born? So a little bit about CHD. It's congenital
heart defect.
Heart defect, yes.
Yep.
And, I was, I being so like invested in your guys' story because of the nature of it, I looked it up a little bit. Of course, I wanted to, learn a little bit more about what, was going on. And you can either, are you always born with it? Is that something that like happens after they're born, or
nope? So you're born with it.
Okay.
And there's no real like rhyme or reason why.
Right.
Like it wasn't anything, it wasn't my diet. It wasn't something that was hereditary. It's just something that happens.
Right.
I mean, in my heart, I believe it's, and I know this sounds like a little crazy to some people, I really do believe it's because I received the COVID vaccine. There was a bunch of studies that were done that show that in neonates post COVID vaccine, that there was a massive increase in kids born with congenital heart defects.
I mean, you would know more than any of us because you're in it and you've done.
Yeah, I mean, and I think you're just always searching for answers.
Right.
Like why do I have to watch my kid go through this? Yeah. Like, why is this happening to him? Can I fix him? And I'll never know if that's the truth or whatever. But we had gotten pregnant before we had Augie and had a miscarriage pretty soon after I had received the vaccine, and then we had tried for a while, and then he was born, and so
did you get like all of them? The first, second booster?
No, I got the the first and second.
Okay.
Series of the shots, because we had just opened up our restaurant,
Mr.
Sizzles on Connecticut Street, and New York State and specifically Erie County was putting an immense amount of pressure on local businesses
to receive
the vaccine, to kind of patrol people being vaccinated. They wanted us to card people at the door before they came into the restaurant, which we had refused
to come eat.
Yep, to show us your COVID vaccination card, which we refused to do. And so, there was a lot of unnecessary pressures that were put on small business. And there really hasn't, to this day, been like any apologies from the county or apologies from the state, for the pressures that they put on businesses.
Right.
Yeah.
And then to have things kind of reversed after that.
Oh yeah. Now it's like,
very hard on you about that. And then, just take it back.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can't imagine.
So, but he was born with it. And then, we were kind of undersold on the severity of the condition, and so we found out at our 20-week anatomy scan.
I was gonna ask, like, okay, so before he was born.
Yeah, we found out at 20 weeks, and they wrote it on a piece of paper and handed it to me and said, we don't really have a lot of time to talk to you right now, but feel free to Google this condition. So they said he had hypoplastic left heart syndrome, and he would have to have 3 open heart surgeries and.
Like passed you the note at checkout, like here, make your next
more
appointment.
Or less.
Wow.
I actually
was this here? Actually?
So this was here in Buffalo at and like an OBGYN office in Buffalo.
Okay.
On transit road. So,
Okay.
but yeah, so they had written it down, and I actually found it probably about a year and a half ago. I found the piece of paper with his diagnosis written on it, and posted a picture of it. I'm like, this is how I found out
Wow.
my son had this crazy heart condition. So he has 50% function of his heart, and then he has tricuspid atresia, which is an underdeveloped tricuspid valve. So, basically he gets 50% of his
Function.
function and oxygenated blood to other organs. So,
So everything, the working ones are working twice as hard to
correct.
make things work. And
Yep.
does that cause problems?
Oh yeah.
That's what.
Yep. It causes, a lot of kids that go through this have various other health issues because of that. So he is G-tube fed, so he doesn't eat anything by mouth. He has a problem with like absorbing calories the same way you or I would. So Chris and I make his formula from scratch. We cook a bunch of different ingredients, and we put them in our Vitamix, and then we put it in a bag and feed it into his tube in his stomach.
Okay.
But he had his first open heart surgery when he was 6 days old. So that really like kick-started everything that happened with him.
Wow.
But he's good. He's chilling.
Yeah, I mean, he looks like the happiest kid. It's just insane. We take so much for granted on a daily basis, and I am so guilty of that myself, Well,
I think we all are, and then if you're not in that situation,
right.
It's really hard to relate to someone that's going through it, because it's like, what do I say? Like, how can I, there's no comparisons of like what they're going through. And
I definitely learned when my mom suddenly passed last year that I don't really, there's nothing you can say to make things better. You could just be there for people. So
yep, absolutely.
Whenever someone's going through anything now, I just say, I am so sorry, and whatever I can do to help you, please let me know, because I know there's no words that'll make this better, because that's how I felt.
Yeah, I mean, I think as we get older, and as we have these different life experiences, empathy really comes into play.
Yeah.
And so, I am...
And showing up for people is priceless.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm 100% changed from what I've gone through with Augie in the last 3 years. If you knew me 5 years ago, it's like that is not even remotely close to the person I am today. Right. It's just, it's changed every aspect of my life. It's made me religious. It's made me, I think, warmer, more understanding. And it's also put this burning fire in my soul of, wanting to help other families, and, wanting to be there for these kids that are fighting for, just the bare basic healthcare and some normalcy in their life. So,
which is, incredible that with everything you're going through and how exhausted you are, you're the first thing you basically said is, what can I do to help other people? I want to help other people.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try not to get emotional. I literally just randomly cry all the time now.
Oh yeah, same.
Because I feel the same about life. Life is hard, and helping others is, like I said, priceless. I would rather do, that's what makes me happy. Not money, not vacations, and this job has been everything to me too. Meeting,
making connections with people.
Connections. Yeah. People, some of my clients have become some of my best friends and family. They came to my mom's service. You know what I mean? We've been through, I've been there for them through divorces, breakups, death, stuff like that. So, that's been everything. This is my whole life. I pour everything into it now, and now this is what I want to do. On top of helping people feel beautiful and better, I've literally had people cry when they see their brows or something after this, because it is our appearance.
When I cry after this,
life
that's what I'm going to say.
changing.
It's my brows.
Oh, like now I want to do this, like while pampering you, because that is something small I could do to help you feel better with everything you're going through, and then try to do have a platform where some of my people might not know about you and what you're going through, and Augies and everything. So just to intertwine and mix different stuff like that is what I really want to do too. So
yeah, I mean, that's, when all of this, obviously the lawsuit that we were involved in was extremely public. I mean, I think that's part of the reason why it threw me for a complete and total mindfuck,
your
because
whole private life
everything
is on display.
Well, and I know that myself and my husband, the majority of our life, like, I don't drink.
Mm-hmm.
My husband doesn't drink.
Mm-hmm.
We're not out at the clubs. We're not, running around town doing all of these things. We're not,
right.
gossiping with people. And we're very like private. And all we have done for the last 3 years, aside from the restaurant, has been live in a hospital with our son and try to keep our restaurant afloat. And, we've learned a lot of hard lessons. We had people that we brought into the restaurant that we were friends with, that we were close with, that, stole thousands of dollars. We had people take advantage of us. We had all of these obstacles happen when our backs were turned and we were in an ICU, playing out
down.
Playing out, our son's funeral. And, when the lawsuit happened, I was just so taken back by it and couldn't really understand. And so I went radio silent, and so did Chris. And I was like, I'm turning off social media. Like, all of a sudden I'm being flambéed in the media, and I'm on every news channel, and people are posting crazy things on, Facebook threads. And I'm like, these people don't know me. And they 100% wouldn't say it to my face. It's like,
I think people believe like the first thing they hear. So to like get into that a little bit, so you have had Mr. Sizzles, the three of those, or at least two, and we're opening a third one. Right. And that was super successful, amazing burgers and milkshakes. I've obviously been there. And then to us, the community, it closed right away. Nobody knew what was going on. I feel like people's first assumption when something like that happens is, oh, they weren't paying rent, or they weren't paying their bills. Like, this is what I hear. Like, I see, at least 15 between myself and some of the girls that I haven't had working for me. A lot of people come in here, people talk and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that is what I hear sometimes, like, oh, they weren't paying their bills, or whatever the case may be. And I wouldn't ever, it's not like me to just assume something, especially on someone or a situation I don't really know. So that, I didn't think about that aspect of it whatsoever. Like, oh, they're not paying their bills. I was just like, oh man, like, they were so good. What happened? You know what I mean? And then you made that post. So and how long after everything were you able to talk about that?
So the lawsuit dropped in October, and so I went silent, and I had to move in the shadows. And lawsuits are a game of chess, not a game of checkers. And I just followed the lead of my attorneys. And then once the lawsuit was over, and Chris and I
so it was over completely when you were able to talk about it.
It's over. Chris and I own everything, Mr. Sizzles now. And we actually could have reopened
under that name,
but no.
Right.
Not
after that.
No, and like, it felt like the name Mr. Sizzles had cooties. And I just couldn't imagine a scenario of my ex-partner sitting at a table with his buddies drinking a beer and saying, oh, you see how successful that restaurant is?
Yeah, they
I-
would still have a tie to it in some way.
Exactly.
Even if
It's like
not.
I wasn't going to have that.
Yeah.
So
now it's Augies.
yep.
I love the spaceship. It's so cute. What, of course, the meaning behind that is your son, but did he like draw that little logo? How did you come up with that to represent it?
So when we came up with Mr. Sizzles, my husband.
Yeah, how did you come up with Mr. Sizzles?
Well, so my husband came up with it. So it was during COVID, and the guy that we were business partners with, my husband grew up with his wife. They'd been friends for 25 years.
Wow, the ones that you were in the lawsuit with?
Yep.
Wow.
And they owned a building and still own this building on Connecticut Street at 319 Connecticut. It's on the corner of Plymouth and Connecticut. It's been under construction for probably 6 years now. And it's, it's unmanaged. It's not taken care of. It, has a bunch of, displaced people, I guess I could say, living in it. And it's, it's been dangerous and just not taken care of. So
like squatting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he had this property and he approached him and his wife were like, we bought this building. We really want to put a restaurant in it. We have no restaurant experience. Would you guys consider?
And have you been in food and beverage?
Yeah. So I've been a bartender my whole life. And same with Chris. We've worked in restaurants for forever. And so, Chris was like, okay, well, if you partner us in, we'll put a restaurant in here. And so we came up with this concept. We were going to call it the Duck Club, and this really cute, like bistro style restaurant, and fast casual service with some counter service as well. And we came up with this whole business plan. And then COVID happened. And
the four of you?
Chris and I came up with the concept. They basically just gave us the keys to the building.
Okay. Got it.
So they were going to put up the money for the construction costs of the restaurant. That was going to be their, capital contribution to the business. And then Chris and I were going to be putting in, sweat equity and the
everything
concept
else.
and everything else. So we laid out the whole restaurant. We met with architects. We did all of these things. And I mean, really, it was a waste of many years of my life. But I didn't realize at the time that a lot of the things that our partner was saying to us was like smoke and mirrors. He wanted to have
merit behind it. Like he didn't have
the money, really is what it was. And so he wants to be this big venture capitalist, but you can't expect that you're going to have the carriage if you can't even afford the pumpkin. So
which you didn't know.
No. I mean, because I just believe, I just trusted him. And
you didn't dive
and honestly,
into...
I was so excited. I was like, this is our opportunity. Like we're going to be owners. We finally get to do what we want to do and like make it our own. And we were fully bought in. So COVID happened, and Carl Frislin, that owns the Horse Feathers building that Mr.
That's the one I
Sizzles
was thinking of. Okay.
Yeah. So Carl Frislin has the Horse Feathers building where Mr. Sizzles was, and his tenant was a coffee roaster or coffee shop, and they just one day disappeared in the middle of the night. And he approached us and said, hey, the tenant that was here, they're not here, they're gone, and they've left everything in the building. So if you guys, nobody's renting spaces right now. I desperately want something in this space because we're not getting rent money. And
that's a very beautiful building.
Yeah. And he's like, if you do it, you can have all the equipment that's in the building. Okay.
Wow.
So we, my husband and I went in, we cleaned everything. There was like money in the safe still. We cut it open with a Sawzall, and
that's insane. They just
used
got up
it
and
to buy pizza for the staff when we hired them. But they left like a full...
Who said there's no such thing as free anything?
Exactly. But they left everything. Like the back bar cooler that's at Connecticut Street actually belonged to this coffee shop that was there.
Thank you.
So, it saved us like thousands and thousands of dollars on restaurant equipment.
For sure.
And, we got to work and like laid it out and decided that we were going to change the concept because we didn't think that...
Of the Duck?
Yeah, the Duck Club. We didn't think it would do well where we were. And, after seeing kind of the space at Connecticut Street, we were like, we need to go back to the drawing board and figure a different concept out. So Chris had come up with Mr. Sizzles and really just wanted like this Archie comic style restaurant and character. And so, yeah, that's kind of how Sizzles was born. And
that's awesome.
The Augies logo, kind of the same thing. It's like, we took a lot of inspiration from, just a little character.
Yeah, because that was still everything that you guys did at Mr. Sizzles. You just didn't want, some of the meaning and baggage with it anymore. So that makes sense. Yeah, that you carried a bunch of it over. So that closed, and then the lawsuit.
Well, so the restaurant remained open during the lawsuit.
Oh yeah.
So the lawsuit happened, and we were so basically 2024, January of 2024. This is prior to anything happening. We were in construction on Transit Road
for your third location.
So this would have actually been our second location.
Oh, your second. Okay.
So we had not yet even knew about the Hamburg location. And we were in construction, and I went, Augie was in the hospital. And so I was doing a lot of things like back and forth. He was in Rochester. So I was traveling a lot between Rochester and Buffalo to go to town hall meetings, to do all these things to get this building, wrapped up so that we can open there.
Yeah.
And I walked in, and the contractor was there, and he was being like pretty pissy towards me and cold. And I don't
had you used this contractor before for your other one?
No, I mean, the first location we built out ourselves, essentially. Okay. So this guy was, I guess, friends or friendly with our business partner, and our business partner hired him. And so I walked in January, and I was like, hey, I'm like back and forth. My son's in the hospital, and he was like kind of griping and moaning. And finally I'm like, what the hell is your problem? And he goes, your business or your partner owes me $1 million. And I was like, I'm sorry, like what? I can't
that
even.
That sounds like a joke. Like you owe me $1 million. I can't even compute
that many zeros. I'm like, what? Okay, like I don't even know what you're talking about. And he's like, he owes me $1 million for Connecticut Street. And so the building that he owned on Connecticut Street that was in and out of construction.
That had nothing to do with you.
Had nothing to do with us. That, we were not involved in. He had owed them, and I don't know why anyone would run their business this way, but he owes them like $950,000 in construction costs. So they put a mechanics lien for that amount on the building. Now, this was January of 2024.
Was the lien already on there when he told you this?
They were getting ready to place the lien.
Oh, okay.
So that was January of 2024. The second week in December of 2023, my business partner signed a $1.5 million contract with them on Transit Road. So
December of 2023.
Yep. So in January of 2024, they tell me that he owes them $1 million on this other project. So I call my husband, and I'm like, look, like this is weird. Why would you sign a contract with someone when you already owe them $1 million? Like that doesn't make any sense to me. I'm like, this seems very bizarre.
And you hadn't. So what were your feelings at that point? Did you talk to your partner, your business partner / friends?
Well,
this?
I mean, I tried to, and he kind of like blew me off. I mean, he just
like, oh, it's whatever, I'll figure it out type of thing. Or?
No, I mean, he just was like, oh, those guys, they mishandled money. They misappropriated funds. I mean, he just like pushed it off as like something that they had done.
Right.
And so it just didn't sit right with me. And so, I mean, I channeled my inner psycho ex-girlfriend. Like, I am going to go through your cell phone. I'm going to read all of your text messages. Right. I'm going to figure this out. And so I went nuts, and I just started digging. And
well, I mean, good thing, because you wouldn't have, this could have went a lot worse, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
I don't know how much.
So
worse
I
it could
pulled
get.
the construction contract that was signed in December on our Transit Road property, and there was an entity that was listed. So you're a small business owner. Businesses have to establish an LLC, a federal EIN number. And so on the construction contract, there was an entity listed that I had never heard of. It was 6409 Transit Road LLC. And I'm like, what the hell is this? So I asked my partner, he blew me off. And at this point, he had brought in like his best friend, and his best friend was like playing the middleman and saying that he was going to be involved now.
Like, who are you? Why are you talking to me?
Yeah, my business partner is saying like, oh, I think I'm going to give him a little piece of equity. I'm like, well, that you don't have the authority to do that.
And that is like not
works.
even the like. Why are you even? That shouldn't even be a thing right now. We're talking about what this building is under our name,
right?
And the
so,
construction.
So on Transit Road, the property is owned by a company called Benchmark, and Benchmark is a multi-billion-dollar development company that's based in Western New York. They are awesome. Love them. Love Kevin Zugger. He's the vice president of I think of sales is his title, but sweetheart. So when we found this Transit Road property, this was an old bank. I think it was a Northwest Savings Bank, Lockport Savings Bank at one point in time. Beautiful piece of property, sits on an acre and a quarter. And it just, it looks like a park behind the building. It's really, it's a very, very special location. My business partner was adamant about buying the property. And so he really sold it to Chris and I and said, like, look, we could buy this property
instead of renting or something.
Yeah,
or leasing.
We could negotiate where our lease payments will go towards the purchase price of the building.
Okay.
And this is, and this will always stick with me, this is generational wealth for your family. You and your husband will own a piece of property on Transit Road that will never depreciate. And, you know, essentially, once the mortgage is paid off, you guys will basically be paying rent to yourselves. And it's like, okay, well, that sounds amazing.
Right. Yeah.
So in January, when I saw this construction contract, I'm like, I don't know what this entity is. I called Benchmark and said, hey, you know, it just occurred to me after we negotiated the lease and the purchase agreement, and you know, we AOK'd all the red line versions of those contracts. I never received a fully executed lease or purchase agreement. Are you able to send them to me? And so Kevin was like, oh yeah, 100%. Like, sorry about that. I'll email it to you. So he emails them over to me, and I open the emails, and then I realize that there are entities listed as the tenant and as the purchaser that my husband and I are not owners of. And they're under the name Mr. Sizzles, but they're not LLCs that we formed. They're not LLCs.
The owners. It was under Mr. Sizzles, the owners, not the tenants.
So it was under an LLC that was created using the name Mr. Sizzles in the state of Delaware that had not ownership of my husband and I. Wow. So my business partner and his friend started companies in the state of Delaware, signed operating agreements, making his friend the 100% owner of that company. And the leases and the purchase of the property belonged to them, and Chris and I were entitled to nothing.
Anyone that was like working for you, your lawyers, your real estate lawyer, anyone like that, no one was like catching this stuff? Or
so I did not have
and like, hey, something looks weird, you know about this?
So I didn't have a personal attorney at that point. And our corporate attorney, this lovely woman, Chanel McCarthy with Gross Schumann, she was
my sister.
Shout out to Chanel. She was iced out of the conversation. So he had done all.
He had like his own people.
He hired another attorney and had these people do this and didn't tell our corporate counsel. So she had.
Was that some kind of conflict on that?
Well, listen,
it's behalf. Like
you have no like. It's so insane, like the layers and levels of deceit and things he was doing to try to
cover things up. And wow.
So him and his buddy.
Where did he think this money he owed people was just going to go?
Well, I'll tell you. So So I started really asking a lot of questions. I was like, I don't know a lot about business, but like, what are these LLCs? I want to see the formation documents. I want to see, any operating agreements. And they like refused to turn them over. They just kind of gave me the runaround. And
His attorneys?
well, I didn't at this
Or
point. I
whoever
didn't at
you're
this point.
telling?
I didn't know he had an attorney doing this. So he and his buddy just
They were refusing.
they
Okay.
were refusing.
They were refusing.
So in April, they came to me and
Oh
said,
my gosh.
we've been talking with investors, and we're putting together this investor document to raise money to get the transit road property opened. And I was like, well, first of all, I'm not willing to sell equity in Mr. Sizzles. Like, no, it's too valuable. And secondly, you can't take money from people and not disclose it to the SLA. So like, our attorney needs to be involved in whatever it is that the two of you are concocting.
Right.
And
at this point, did you start to like be like, okay, I don't know who these people are, like my friend, like they're different, like
yeah, I mean, at this point I was more like shocked. And
right.
Augie had just had
Right on top of
yeah, so like Augie had just had a procedure done, and I my back was definitely turned a bit from the business because I had just found out Augie was in heart failure. I knew I had to get him listed for a transplant. I had to get an opinion in Boston. And so
how old was he at this point?
He was 1.5.
Okay.
So, I guess, call it naive. I didn't think that it was anything like overly nefarious.
No, I mean, when you've known people for so long.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, I just didn't think it was anything too crazy.
Right,
and so
right.
in April, they had approached me and said, we need you to sign these loan documents. And I was like,
like, you were just going to sign them and hand them over?
I was like, I'm not signing loan documents. And so the loan, they were attempting to take out like $2.2 million in loans from this private lender. And to the best of my knowledge, the private lender noticed that the loans that they were trying to take out was through this company called Mr. Sizzles Expansion LLC, which was formed in the state of Delaware. And the lender had asked for the operating agreement, and it listed my business partner's best friend as the sole owner. And so
they caught it.
This lender basically said, we know Casey and Chris are owners of Mr. Sizzles, and you're trying to take out, almost $2.5 million in loans. We need to see the operating agreement for Mr. Sizzles Buffalo to see if this is even allowed. And so it put like a hard stop on their plan to be able to take this money out. And so, they tried to get me to sign off on it, and I refused. And I was like, our attorney is getting involved. You need to immediately surrender all of the documentation regarding these loans that you're trying to take out to finish the transit project.
And where are we at now? Like, what month are we in?
So this is like April, May
of last year
of 2024. Yeah.
2024.
And once I started pushing and asking for these things, my attorney at Schumann was like, my recommendation would be that you get your own personal counsel. And so that is what really, started snowballing things. So I hired an attorney.
Okay. So I guess my question is like, so you had a business corporate one. Yeah. What was the personal one for? To like just dive into it more on your behalf?
On behalf of Casey and Chris.
On behalf
because, of Casey and Chris. I in my gut at this point was like, this is weird. Why are they trying to take out $2.5 million in loans? Why is he signing contracts with construction companies that he owes $1 million to? And their cost, the construction company's cost to construct things at the restaurant seemed really high to me. And so I, in my head at that time, really convinced myself that they were trying to subrogate some of the losses that they had on the Connecticut Street project with my business partner through Mr. Sizzles.
Okay.
And kind of
so get more from that.
Yeah, basically trying to like recoup some of their losses on the other project.
Right.
I don't know why, as a business owner, if someone owed you $1 million, you would get in bed with them to do another project. That seems dumb.
Well,
and
who
I also
would take that? Like,
exactly,
agree to that.
but I knew that they were doing some sort of weird cryptocurrency thing with our business partner. So it's beyond my comprehension, but
right. Wow.
My ex-partner talks in circles relentlessly. And so
to confuse people,
to confuse people
right.
and manipulate people.
Right.
And, and so that's kind of what happened. And so when I had refused to sign that loan, he went ballistic on Chris and me. And
they were really banking on that, I guess, huh?
Well, they really just started,
wow.
That's when the kind of like the threats started, and it was like,
wow.
It would be a real shame if you lost health insurance right now, given everything your family's going through.
It's disgusting.
Effective immediately, you're no longer allowed to collect your salary, but you need to work full time in the business. I mean, he was like threatening us he launched like psychological warfare on us to the nth
that's
degree.
what I'm saying. That's like,
and it really kickstarted on 4th of July, and so that's when there was a complete breakdown in communication, and he started threatening us, harassing us, and
that's when you guys totally stopped communicating.
Yeah, I mean, I would only communicate with him through my attorney.
Through your attorney.
Yeah,
right.
Because it was just volatile. And so he was threatening to close the business down, which he didn't have the authority to do. He was threatening to fire our COO, Brian, at the time, which he didn't have the authority to do. He was threatening to cancel our health insurance. And
did he think he had the authority to do that, or was he making empty threats?
This is like, this is a guy that
self-preservation.
This is a guy that was probably bullied his whole life, and he thought that because he has more money than Chris and I, that he could try to assert his dominance over my husband and me, which is crazy. Like, I am this like unhinged North Buffalo Italian, like through and through. And my husband is a complete maniac. And it's like, if you thought for one second that you were going to trample over two like blue collar Buffalo people, like you have not any idea what true grit is. And we will go to the ends of the earth. And by the way, you're threatening our son who has, almost died a handful of times. Sure. Like, you have seen nothing. Like, I'm going to destroy you. Yeah. And I am going to go down with the ship. Like, I am not going to allow you to try to take something that belongs to my husband and I.
Using your son against you. I don't know why that's
so we have like, there's tons of emails, text messages, phone calls, attorney calls.
People where get really desperate and insane for money. And
so at the end of September, Positive Approach, which is a local company here that does screen printing, they did this fundraiser for us. We had just found out Augie was going to get listed for transplant, and they did these T-shirts, these Strong Like Augie T-shirts, and they were huge success, and a bunch of people donated and bought shirts, and it was just like, it was such a special moment for our family, because we were just beside ourselves. Finding out your 2-year-old is in heart failure is a very, very difficult process to go through. It could be very isolating.
You realize like nothing really matters anymore but that.
Exactly. And so we had this moment where it was like, even though we knew we were fighting with our partner, I was really convinced that we were going to sort it out, and that he was going to just
fold and
be like, okay, like, obviously they're not going to let me take these loans out. And I actually at one point had said, I'll allow you to take these loans, but there's stipulations for the loans like that need to change. I need to be in control of the money, because I now do not trust that you're going to do the right thing.
Right.
I need to make sure that I have ownership in these entities that you've created and have conveniently left me out of.
So you even tried to like, okay, let me try and be on board with everything you did.
Yep. Wow. So and he refused. Chris and I wanted an increase in our salary. Chris and I wanted an increase in our salary when the other restaurants opened, which I think is fair.
At the least. Yeah.
You sit back and do nothing, and essentially could have just sat at home and watched YouTube videos every day and gotten a check and and enjoyed the ride of Mr. Sizzles.
Right.
But
which was happening probably before all of this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, he had put up initially $200,000 when we opened the business. We paid him back on that
right away, I'm sure.
And you know, we hadn't even started any distributions for anybody. No one had received distributions, technically. And so he had promised people the world and said, you know, you put up money for Mr. Sizzles and I'll give you this and I'll give you that. But he didn't share that with his business partners. And so we had this big moment with these t-shirt sales and to help us, you know, with some of the costs that were, you know, coming with the territory of traveling back and forth all the time to Boston. And 48 hours after this t-shirt sales were done, my business partner launched a lawsuit against us claiming that we had stolen $500,000 from the business. And so
that's how the lawsuits started.
Yep. So he had gone into our QuickBooks, which is an accounting software that we use for the business, and recategorized our salaries as loans. Wow. And so he was going on this like press tour of,
it gets deeper. It just keeps
they stole money and they have to pay it back. And in actuality, it was the salary that we had collected for the last 4 years that the restaurant had been open.
Right.
We received it in...
That you hadn't. Yeah.
So we had received a salary through the whole time that we had been open. So we were open for 4 years. And every week we got a paycheck. So that money that we got every week is what he was claiming now was a loan.
So you owed that back to him now.
Well, that's what he was trying to say. That's what he was trying to say.
Okay. So then you just worked for free the past 4 years.
Yeah.
You weren't supposed to get any paycheck or anything.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, he was trying to say,
exactly,
you know, I didn't agree to it. They didn't follow corporate formalities. And so what I didn't realize is our original operating agreement had a line in it that stated basically that no electronic communication counts as a way to do business, and everything has to be through a corporate resolution, which is like a written document with signatures. And but most businesses don't operate that way.
Right.
I would say the majority of them, you know, they
make business agreements.
Yeah, they make business decisions through email, through text messages, through. So, you know, we had thousands of documents showing like, no, here's our salary. You've known about our salary. Here's you talking about our salaries. And, you know, what we worked for was never a loan. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So, you know, he launched this lawsuit, and that was back in October. So I was pretty devastated. It was really, really, really hard.
And it was really scary. You guys had 48 hours of just happiness and for 1 second from what the community and everybody did for you, and you forgot about probably your problems for 1 second. And then that was planned, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So then in November,
let's do this right after that.
So in November, my attorney calls me, and this gentleman, Tony Rupp, he is a litigator, and he's amazing, and he's become a good friend of mine. And he calls me and he goes, Casey, you're never going to believe this. Check your email. I thought, okay. So I get off the phone with him and I open my email, and a lawsuit dropped on my business partner for $2.4 million.
Oh, so you hadn't even, people are coming after him now after he served you.
Yep. So he was being sued for RICO allegations, racketeering, fraud, non-repayment of loans in the amount of $2.4 million.
The loan that he wanted you to sign.
Correct. So he was getting sued on his property on Connecticut Street. Wow. So
by who?
By a company called Plutus Lending. So they are a mortgage company that are also in the cryptocurrency world. Wow. And he's a finance guy. So it's
they get creative.
Very creative. So he had brokered some deals with this Plutus Lending company over the years. And so he had convinced the higher ups there to do a joint venture with him, basically meaning that he would be the broker and would broker these deals of historic properties, and they would put up the money for the mortgage, and he would vet the borrowers of that money. So 319 Connecticut Street is a building that he owns himself, him and his wife. He lied to this lender and started other LLCs, and then had his brother-in-law sign these loan documents. Now, his brother-in-law couldn't take out a Macy's card. So his brother-in-law is unemployed, has no money, has no assets, and he vetted his brother-in-law and told this Plutus lending company, like, this is a great borrower. He can take this loan out, and signed off on a $2 million.
Oh, and they didn't know that they were.
Nope. So that's why they're
acted
suing.
Like he brought in a buyer or whatever.
Yep. So they kept the money, and then who knows what the heck they did with it. I maybe he put it into his retirement account. Who
Buried
knows?
it in the backyard, whatever. Yeah. Wow.
Yep.
Where is the wife during all this? Is
radio silent.
Really?
Radio silent. Won't take our calls, won't respond to text messages. And at one point sent my husband this message basically saying, like, you should have listened to my husband. You should have taken the loan. You're
really? The 2
yeah.
point whatever $1 million one? That's
yep.
Wow.
Yep.
That's what she said. How before I forgot, it made me think of it. How soon after you guys opened and started being partners and all this did all of this start? Do you know?
It was like, so, I mean, we found,
to your knowledge,
to our knowledge, it was like 3 years after the fact.
So things were just running as he should have for 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, basically. he wasn't, I mean, we talked to him a couple times a year. I mean,
oh, really? That was it?
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't involved. Like, we tried to get him involved, but he just was, like, not really interested in it. His wife had only been to the restaurant, I think, twice in 4 years.
Wow.
And he, I mean, I could probably count on 2 hands the number of times he had. I mean, they just were not involved. They're not restaurant people. You know, I think to them it was like the romance of saying they owned a restaurant.
Right.
But they didn't have anything to do with the restaurant at all whatsoever. And it worked. You know, that worked in our favor,
fine,
you know, because we were able to really create what we wanted to. We were able to, you know, name the food items the way we wanted to. We were able to have the style of service that we wanted. Right. We were able to, you know, do all the social media and, you know, really like embed ourselves into what we created. And it was amazing.
It was.
But then, you know, people do crazy things when money's involved.
They really do.
I think when you have a lot of financial pressure and, you know, the walls were closing in on him. So,
for sure.
You know,
self-preservation.
Yeah. So on this Connecticut Street property, he had owed, you know, this Plutus lending. He's being sued for $2.4 million from them. And then
take that money and pay it back. What did you do with it?
Well, the contractor, he also owed $1 million, you know, almost $1 million too. So that's like, what, $3.4 million. So, yeah. And while all of that was happening, there was a fire and on a property that he owned that he hid in an LLC, and it burned down on Connecticut Street.
Like on accident?
Well, you know.
Insurance? Right.
Well, we found out the property wasn't insured. So he bought this house. He bought this house on Connecticut Street, and he had his brother-in-law gut it, and then they left it. And
the same brother-in-law?
Yep. And it burned down in the middle of the night. It was like a 3-alarm fire. It took down the neighbor's house with her and her husband in it.
When was that? No way.
Yeah, this was in, actually, I believe this was in August or September of 2024.
So last year also.
Yep. Goodness. So he's being sued for that.
Okay.
You know, it's like almost $500,000 in damages on that as well. So, you know, this guy has kind of like, you know, lawsuits.
Yeah. So how did it end? Are you able to say like how it ended? Like it was obviously in your favor.
Yep.
You own.
Yep. So he just eventually was like, I'm done. Like I'm not gonna, you know.
Oh, gave up fighting.
Well, so Connecticut Street store, the lease was up at Connecticut Street in February. And so it gave us the opportunity to say, well, like, screw you. Like, I'm not re-signing a lease with you.
Okay.
You're suing us. You've destroyed my character all over town. You've
Of course.
lied and have done all of these things to my family. I would be a fool to
go in again
to re-sign the lease. And so he and his buddy thought that.
Did they think you were going to?
No, they did not. And they actually, they sent some like laughable buyout offer, and then they were like meeting with ex.
Oh, you buy them out?
No, they wanted to buy me and Chris out. They offered to pay my health insurance for a year if I gave them the rights to Mr. Sizzles.
Oh, now all of a sudden they care about your son and your health insurance?
No, I'm not going to do that. But they met with like ex-employees, and they tried to like concoct this like scheme where my two employees, one was fired for drinking on the job and having an inappropriate relationship with another manager. So the two of them got fired at the same time.
Just cleaned out.
Yep. And then there was a second guy that had been fired for bringing in a loaded firearm into the building that was stolen.
What?
Yeah. So these people that our business partner had known why they were, the extent of their termination, decided to reach out to them. So these people were coming into Mr. Sizzles, and they were trying to like cause a mass exodus and telling people that they were going to come in and they were going to be running Mr. Sizzles. It was literally the most insane thing I've ever gone through. It's almost like, it's like almost like it couldn't have possibly
like
happened.
A made up movie. Like they made a movie about this or something, like a storyline. So this was in August. I'm sorry, you said when?
No, that was in January. The fire was in August.
Oh, that was
I'm like all over the place. Like it's so crazy to even talk about and think about.
I'm surprised you even know what day it is today.
Yeah.
So wow. Okay. So that lease ended, and then
so that lease ended, and
we want to do this again, just under something like, I don't want this to die.
Yeah. So so our friend and someone that was very close to the Mr. Sizzles debacle was like, look, I want to open up a restaurant. I love you and Chris. I've worked with you guys now for a year. I know how trustworthy you guys are. I want to open up a restaurant. And so, we had been in construction at Hamburg
for Augies.
And we were like weeks away from opening. And basically we got evicted on that property because the construction had stopped, and it was a violation of the lease agreement. And, we weren't going to get back in there as Mr. Sizzles. And so Brian was like, screw it. Like, the space is going to be available for rent. I'm going to go talk to the landlords and see if maybe I can lease the space. And, if you and Chris, once the dust settles, if you guys are interested in either working for me or eventually getting partnered in on this, like I would love to do something with you guys. And so, we thought like, let's see what happens with the lawsuit, and then we'll kind of go from there. And,
and these are friends of yours, the ones you worked with for?
Yeah. So Brian was Chris's mentor. Chris worked with him for like a decade. And then we hired him at Mr. Sizzles, and he was our COO.
COO, right.
So he was very close to everything. And he knew the corporate books better than anybody. So, it was nice having that in our corner of someone to be like, well, obviously I know you guys didn't take anything from the business, let alone $500,000. So, I would love to be in business with you guys if the opportunity presents itself. So,
did they have anything, a restaurant or anything at this point?
Nope. He was working for Mr. Sizzles.
Oh, right. As a CM, right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we had terminated him in like November of 2024 because we just couldn't afford him with all the lawsuit stuff happening. Everything was public record, and it hurt business. It was like,
right.
It at some points it like increased business, at some points it decreased business, and
the lawsuit and everything you guys are going through.
Yeah, we were carrying a lot of costs of the build out, and then the build out had stopped. So, it's not easy to carry those costs when you have no income coming in.
It's impossible. Quite impossible.
Yeah. And so, we had that hanging over our head, and then the Transit Road property, finding out we had put all this money into it and that we weren't
getting any of that back. Right?
Well, and that we didn't own any of it. It was like my business partner and his buddy. It's like, well, you You
So
took
that
it upon
actually
yourself.
went through, the fact that or you hadn't bought it yet. You didn't
So we
know it,
hadn't
right?
bought it, but we had
Right.
started construction on it. I mean, there
Right.
was a lot of money that was
Exactly.
put into it.
Right. Okay.
But my business partner and his friend are the ones that put everything in their name, and they chose to hide that from us, and so it took the responsibility of that property off of us, so I guess in hindsight they did us a favor, but at the time it felt like a huge betrayal.
Right.
It's like,
did they get any funds or anything out of this at
no,
the
and
end?
Benchmark is now suing my partner for $2.1 million. So, so that I think is the grand total now is, let's say,
Now it's all
$5.5
out of your
million.
hand. I'm gonna turn this light on
Yeah.
so watch your eyeballs. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they'll get it worse, it seems, than you could have.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day,
wanted.
like, the lesson is that, you just have to kind of trust yourself and trust
Yeah.
those spidey senses.
Mhm.
He did a lot of, it was a lot of like cloak and dagger. It was things, him making decisions and trying to like rob Peter to pay Paul.
Right. Right.
And
you never catch up from that.
no,
like,
and he was using Mr. Sizzles because it was so successful,
right.
As the safety net that was going to like pay for all of his bad business choices and decisions.
Right. And you guys were collateral damage, and your son and your
100%, and our business. I mean, he
yeah.
essentially destroyed, I mean, not only my husband and my reputation, but he also destroyed the business that we created that was wildly successful. And so that
Right.
that was a hard pill to swallow. And even with Augies, I mean, I think most people know, it's got a lot of the same love as Mr. Sizzles, but it is different. And
You feel that way?
yeah, I mean, I just like, we had to reapply for liquor licenses. I mean,
Right.
there's been a lot of heartache with that. It's the first restaurant that my husband and I ever created, and it was created out of love, and there was so much of our family embedded in every aspect of that restaurant, in the walls, in the menu, and in all of it. And so you're almost like mourning a family member.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it felt like.
And although it was your business, like, that was your life too. Like, you didn't have yeah. So things are separate, business and personal.
Yeah, and it got really scary. I mean, I went back to school when all of this was happening. I needed a distraction. I went through.
I was going to ask, at what point were you like, let me take on more?
Well, I went through this like really, really dark depression. I mean, Chris would come home and I would just be on the floor in the fetal position, just sobbing every single day. I mean, to see, I was afraid to leave my house because I don't know. In my head, it was the biggest story in Western New York. And, obviously it was not, but in my world it was. And so
of course.
I was afraid for people to see me. I thought everybody was looking at me and pointing at me and was like, that girl stole the money. And I'm like, I don't even have a speeding ticket.
Wow. So yeah, I mean, not even the business and money aspect, but the psychological,
the psychological stuff was
stuff behind it
was far worse than anything else.
Right.
It was like, I stopped eating. I wasn't sleeping. And, I think the worst part about it was like our 5-year-old would just say like, Daddy, Mommy's crying again. And it just like broke my heart. And it's like,
and then how are you supposed to, and then you would still get the energy to even drive to Boston or fly to Boston or Rochester and do the things for your son CHD that you needed to do.
Well, and I was also petrified that we were going to lose our health insurance, and
everything else was going and crumbling and stuff as far as what he was doing. Why would you not think that was a threat that he made?
Yeah, and I just, in December, I just knew that I needed to take some power back and like some control in my life. And I knew that with the last 3 years of getting to experience all the things that my son went through, that I really fell in love with healthcare. And the thought of being able to help families or people that were in situations where they were fearful and
so that's
didn't
what
know
made
who
you
to
go
turn
back to
to.
school?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I got my EMT certification, and
Congratulations.
thank
It's
you.
amazing.
Yeah, and so I started working for Twin City Ambulance, and so now I work on an ambulance on top of running these restaurants and
Yeah, so
balancing
you're there
Augie
from 7 a.m. till like
well, let's see,
whenever, and then
I
do you work overnights at
yeah,
that?
so
Oh
I
my
worked
gosh.
like last night I worked 5 p.m. to 3 a.m.
And you're here at 9 a.m. Thank you. That
Listen,
means a lot.
I'm moving. I'm doing things. But normally I work like 4 a.m. to 4 p.m. or 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. So,
Wow.
yeah. So I've been doing that, and I super super love it, and I really can't say enough good things about Twin City. They've been phenomenal, and they were I just went through this craziness with my son again, where he needed this emergency surgery, and they were so understanding. They really had my back, and
Wow.
even the staff that works there. There's like I think they have like 200 employees or something. I mean, I guess a lot of them have reached out to me, even ones I didn't know, and
Wow.
it's like you have this whole other community of these people that just have like rallied behind Chris and I, and the support from them has been everything, because people in EMS get shit on constantly, and so like
like why are they not showing up, or like
listen, EMTs and paramedics are some of the hardest workers like around, and they do not get paid enough. They do not get treated.
Exactly.
They are significantly underpaid. There's like no representation in the state to like support them and get them the pay and the benefits that they deserve.
They're not in like unions or anything. They don't.
I mean, they have unions, but like
right.
They don't. They should be making.
It's not always.
They should be making double what they're making.
Yeah.
And these guys are the ones that are coming up, showing up, and saving your life in an emergency situation. I mean, and they are some of like the nicest, most humble people, and they're on a truck, 12 to 15 hours a day, like going into every nook and cranny of Western New York to
save lives,
and help people. So that community, it's like I feel like I have them behind me now, and
do you feel like that's home, like you're at home? Like
I do. I think it's
in a way. I feel like I don't know.
It's weird. It's like as we get older, like you reflect on your life and you reflect on scenarios and things that you've done, and I was like a maniac in my 20s. I mean, I was like partying and like out at the bars, I was bartending. I was a nutcase.
I mean, I tell people on a daily basis, I'm on my 9th life here. Yeah. I have such a hard time, like, I have such a hard time with myself. Like, I'm really hard on myself with how, like, what I put my mom through, like a solid, like 10 years of partying, the phone calls, everything like that. I know. And it's crazy. So when you grow up, you really reflect on that. Like, wow, I did not give her enough credit.
Like the fact that I'm even still alive is like,
that's what I'm saying. I'm on my 9th life here.
Like, I can't believe I'm even alive. Like I should be dead in like a ditch with, bottle of with like a bottle of Boone's Farm. What am I doing?
It's people that know me now that are like, I don't really drink. Like, I don't really go out. Like, I'll go to dinner and have a drink. But I mean, I think the last time I got drunk was like the week before St. Patrick's Day. And they're like, wait, what? And I feel so boring now. And it's like, I'm not boring. I'm just not a psycho. Like, I'm not insane. I'm not partying and blacking out and doing all that. Like, I can't even believe I'm alive too. I tell people about this all the time. Like, I went through that.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I haven't drank in 6 years.
Wow, that's amazing. And, it's just poison. I have really learned it's poison.
It's just like, it just wasn't serving me anymore. It
Same,
just was like, I didn't love the way I felt. I didn't love the way it was making my body feel and like look, and like I don't know. It was like I didn't have an off switch. Like I just was not really trying to do that anymore. And I met my husband, and he didn't drink, and I had recently stopped drinking, and it just worked out. It was like we became obsessed with each other. We got pregnant with Cora right away. And
that's great.
I just never looked back. I mean, there was never a moment where I was like, man, like, would my life be better if I was,
party
6 Tito's deep right now? I was like, maybe it would probably be more exciting for a hot second.
Right?
But like when I think back on all of those times where I was like out partying all night, it's like
If you think of like a lot of things that you
I don't
did
know,
that
like this
maybe
is
you
just more
regret.
fulfilling for me now,
Yeah.
you know? And so
No, I do.
I'm grateful for the relationships I had, but to be
Yeah.
honest, I don't think I've talked to many people that I was doing that stuff with anyways.
I
Like,
get it. I really do.
I mean, it really,
I have a core like group of 5 women that are amazing, and I don't think I'm holier than thou for like not really
no.
drinking. Like I went out this weekend and I got a mocktail, water, sugar-free Red Bull. I don't think that. I'm just like so scared of being hungover.
Well,
I'm like the
that's what it
worst
is.
hungover person.
I'm like dead. I'm literally dead for 24 hours. I mean, it's like it just gets so much worse when you get older, you know. And
I don't have time to be
No.
hungover, like all that stuff. And then too, yeah, I get a headache. It's just, yeah, I like to get up and work out. That's my thing. I like to be productive. I don't have, just like you, like, do you have a whole entire 2 days to waste from being hungover?
No. I don't have 2 minutes to waste at this point. I'm like, the laundry's piling up, the dog's gonna go for a walk, and Augie all of a sudden needs a surgery. Like, let's go. Like, we got shit to do. But it's like I am just I've kind of like rediscovered, it's almost like I've become the person that I've always meant to be and I always wanted to be, but like kind of hid the inevitable, I guess, like by like drinking and partying and like being out and being super social. Like, this such a great relationship, but if I was drinking and he was sober,
it wouldn't work.
Our relationship wouldn't work.
It wouldn't work.
And like, I think about, I would never leave him. I would ever, like, he's amazing. But I think about it sometimes, like we joke and I'm like, who the hell would take all this on? Like, who would take this on? I'm getting, we just went through this crazy lawsuit. My son is like in and out of the hospital. Like, I got,
and then you're like, let me go to school.
Like, can you imagine? I'm putting that in my like Bumble profile. I don't know. Really Bumble. Like, I would not be an appealing candidate for like single life. So,
yeah, if you put all your stuff up front, swipe right. Yeah. No, I mean, you're just honestly incredible.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I think you're incredible too.
Oh, thank you.
We just we pivot. We pivot and we just we do what we got to do and fight for our family and fight for what's right and
and good that it's hard to like tell yourself like, okay, things will get better, this will be great, or like whatever the case may be. But when you're a good person and you do right by people and everything like that, like it really will. It's hard to see it like at first, but it will. And Augies is going to be really successful, and you're finding like love and joy in doing the EMT stuff, and I'm sure that's fulfilling.
Yeah, I mean, that feels like something that was missing from my life that
Yeah.
I never really knew was missing until I started doing it.
That's why I said, did it feel like home? Like, I don't
Yeah.
know, for some reason that's how it felt
to
me.
It has its moments where it like humbles you. Like, I actually the other day I had
like, you need that.
Yeah, kind of like it like
through.
brings you down a notch a little bit. Like, I had I was transporting a patient. She was young. She was like 9 years old, and she was talking to me in the back, and she was very sweet, and she was saying to me, she's like, yeah, I really like you. You're probably my favorite. And I was like, well, thank you. I'm like, you're actually one of my favorites too. And she asked me how old I was, and I said, oh, I'm 39. And she was shocked.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God, you don't look like you're that old.
I'm shocked too.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm 39.
And I'm like right in your face, so I see all the nooks and crannies.
Well, so she says, your skin, it's glowing, it's popping. And I was like, thank you. And then she said to me, and honestly, I don't even mind your double chin. And I was like, okay, well, thank you. But so it humbles you, it's like you never really know what you're gonna get. It's like you have that, and then it's like, okay,
thank you.
Thank you. So that gave me a good chuckle, and it's a fun.
That's really funny.
I like the job because it's
could scare me in that sense.
No day is ever the same, and so for months with this lawsuit, every day was exactly the same. I would wake up, get Augie's meds, and cry, and check my emails and read through old emails and pull documents for my attorney. And at one point I just told Chris, I'm like, I need a distraction. I need something that's going to, can distract me, can can bring me a little bit of peace, and
He
you know,
was
and also
completely on board for it.
and well, and also like if the restaurants are done and like we're screwed, and you know, and we have to have an income, like I have to have a job, and so
it is
I want to do what I can to protect you and the kids, and you know, you keep fighting the good fight and working at Sizzles and doing all the things, and I will continue doing what I have to do for Sizzles, but I'm going to also get this other job, and I'll work nights, and I'll do whatever I have to do to get us through, and you know, and we're going to just push ourselves, and it won't be like this forever, but we're going to show the kids that there's nothing that, you know, that's going to stop us. Yeah.
I mean, if you guys made it through everything you just did, yeah, I know you're going to do really great.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for taking time you don't have to go to school and now go save lives yourself. So honestly, you know, we don't, you know, I sit here in a chair and do this and stuff, which this is needed too. You know, people feel really down about themselves, and I am a part of, you know, making them feel better. But we do take things for granted, like what you see on a daily basis in those ambulances, and what you're dealing with your son, and everything that was thrown at you. So keep doing the damn thing. So Augies, now what locations do you have open? And then
so Connecticut Street is reopened in the Horse Feathers building where Mr. Sizzles was.
Oh, okay.
Same exact location.
Awesome.
We don't have our liquor license yet, but I hope it will be approved in the next week or so.
Oh, awesome. That's okay. People are going to for the burgers and all that, the sandwiches. So
so that's open right now. It's open Wednesday through Sunday from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m.
to 9 p.m.
Yep.
Awesome.
And once the liquor license gets approved, it'll be open 7 days a week, 11 to 11.
Okay.
And then the second location is in Hamburg on Buffalo Road.
Okay.
And so it's right at Staub Square in the village of Hamburg.
Awesome.
And
when is that open?
That is open 7 days a week, 11 to 11.
Oh, awesome.
And that has a full bar, and
that one has a awesome.
Yeah, full bar. It has a patio, and then we're in construction on a rooftop patio as well.
Ooh, can't wait, because I'm a South Towns girly, so that's the one, and I'm a West Side girly because my business is over here.
See?
So I'm going to be going to both. I had one question I wanted to ask about your menu. What is I wanted to know about you, like, what's your favorite food item?
So the cool thing about Augies is, you know, when we did the menu, we just went through this crazy thing. I mean, really, the primary reason why we fought so hard through this lawsuit was because I felt like this person was targeting our son.
Mm-hmm.
And so...
Well, yeah, it was the closest to home to you.
So like our logo, like Augie and his little flying saucer, there's a heart on his chest. His little like antenna has a heart at the end of it. And on the menu, there are menu items that have hearts next to them, and they're actually named after heart warrior kids that we've met through our journey.
I read that one. The one in particular, which was I was going to ask about.
Yeah, so Sunny Boy.
That's what the heart next to. Okay.
Yep. So Sunny Boy is one of the sandwiches. That was a little boy that had passed away in December of I want to say it was 2023. Mm-hmm. And you know, that was a very very difficult process to go through. You know, sometimes with having a sick kid, especially with heart warriors, you know, unfortunately, a lot of them lose their battle.
Did you meet them in Boston?
So this was a family I'd met in Rochester.
That scared the shit out of me. I'm sorry, one second. You met them in Rochester?
Yep, I met them in Rochester. And, you know, you almost feel like, I don't know, like it's going to happen to you. You know, it's like you go through like survivor's guilt almost, like, you know, why is it that we're still here, you know? And so
how could you
we wanted to be able to honor these kids the best way we could. So Sunny Boy was on there. And then we have another one, Sergeant Sawyer.
That's the one I saw, I think.
Yeah,
too.
so Sawyer's family, we're very close with, and still are very close with. They were our first Heart Warrior family that we connected with, and we were in the ICU at the same time. And so every night we would sit outside together and just talk. And
Wow.
you know, they've traveled to Buffalo a couple times to come and sit with us. And
Wow, that's amazing.
they're amazing. And you know, there's a couple other kids that are on the menu that have been just you know, like monumental pieces in our journey and people in our journey. So
those are your favorite sandwiches.
yeah, and then on our cocktail menu, there's actually a shout out to 6 South, which is the unit that all the cardiac kids are on in Rochester. So we have a cocktail called SEAL Team 6 South.
I love that so much. I don't think they probably would have thought a better way to like recognize them too. You know what I mean? I would love to have a sandwich and a drink next to me on a very popular, you know, menu and stuff like that.
Yeah, you know, there's something really powerful that comes with hearing your kid's name over and over again when you're going through these kinds of things. And so, you know, I don't want those parents to ever think that anyone will ever forget who they are.
Yeah.
You know, because it's something you think about. You know, I've spent a lot of time thinking about how I will honor Augie when he passes or if he passes. And you know, it's hard, but it you know, it brings some realness to the situation. And you know, there's no special way than, you know, for us than honoring them with our food and on our menu. And so the restaurants have really brought like a sense of community for like these Heart Warrior families. And there's been a bunch of them that have come in and we've met with. And so
I know you said
it's been
earlier,
pretty awesome.
I know you said earlier, like you know, when you weren't leaving your house and stuff, you felt like the people in community thought this, that, and the other thing about you. I hope you know that they think nothing but strength and resilience from, you know, about you and what you guys have been through in your story.
Yeah, there's been
I hope you know that.
You know, when I put that post up, I never expected it to like
get as much love.
And so it was
even to do that and have the strength to do that, because you have no idea the backlash, good or bad, that would get. So I mean,
the social media and the news can be your foe or your friend. Right. So you know, I put that up as just kind of like, you know, for us, for Chris and I. And then when I don't go on social media that often. And then when I like went back on a few days later, I was like, oh my gosh, there's like 2,000 reactions. There's like, it's been shared like 500 times. Like, holy cow.
Yeah.
But it felt good to be able to tell our story and really have the opportunity to, because, you know,
because to stay, I mean, not that like my goal is to talk about my life or anything like that, but to stay silent and have to let all these people like talk shit and like say all these things about you, like, and not be able to stick up for yourself has got to be a complete battle in itself.
Well, I think it was more like, you know, it was like embarrassing on top of everything else. And truthfully, I was really, you know, besides like what people were saying about us, or like a couple of these like basement dwellers that put some stupid Reddit thread on that wouldn't have the balls to come and say it to my face. I was really more concerned with our staff, because for a long time, we had no idea what was going to happen. And so that's why when I decided to not resign the lease, that we had told our employees, like, we are closing and we are going to be open for like another, you know, 40 days or whatever. And so I wanted to be able to give our employees the opportunity to make the decision themselves if they wanted to ride it out with us to the bitter end, or, you know, at least set themselves up to, you know, file for unemployment or, you know, find another job or whatever, you know. And,
which is everything you guys had. The last thing you had to think about was like other people and stuff like that.
We have people that have families, you know, it's like a lot of people live paycheck to paycheck. I mean, eggs are like freaking $6 a dozen. It's like these people deserve to have to be able to stack their
Yeah.
chips and be comfortable when the restaurant closes. And I know that's not, there's this, I don't know if it's like this with every industry, but restaurants in particular, especially if you look at like corporate restaurants, like, the Red Lobsters, the Applebee's, when they close, they don't tell anybody.
Oh, they don't tell anyone. I used
Like
to
you
work
show
out,
up and like the doors are locked and that's the end of it. And then you're screwed. And like, I couldn't stomach doing that to the employees because they were just, they knew about the lawsuit and they really, for the most part, all stuck with us. And when we told them we were closing,
yeah,
every single one of them stayed till the bitter end.
yeah,
And
that shows the kind of people
out.
you guys are too.
Yeah.
They wouldn't do that if you were shitty or stealing or doing all these things as people said you were doing. I used to work out at this one F45, and I was there like every day, and I became close with some of the workers, and I saw one of them after it closed, and they said they did not give them any notice, and they knew. Yeah. They knew like a week before you're about to lose your job.
Yep. And I mean, that's pretty typical. And owners sometimes do that because there's this fear that staff is going to go nuts and steal everything. And maybe that to some capacity is true.
Or quit early and find another job, and then they don't have anyone for the last few weeks. Yeah. I don't know, but still.
But I just didn't, if they stole something, like, what were they going to steal? Some burger patties. It's like, I don't even care at this point. Like, I got bigger fish to fry. Like, and honestly, I trusted the staff, and I'm glad that I trusted my gut, because at the end, the people that were with us were very trustworthy, and they just, they're some of the best in the business. So we were lucky to have them as employees.
And they are with you at Augies, and
yes, most of them, yes, are with us at Augies.
Right,
and
it's gonna be
there's a bunch of them that are waiting for Connecticut Street to open full time, so the bar staff can come back. They all want to come back.
Oh, that's amazing.
Some of the bar staff is traveling right now from, they live in the city and they're traveling out to Hamburg.
Well, like I said, that really shows who you guys are. So I'm going to post your guys' social media. Your Google reviews help everything. Reviews are so helpful.
Google reviews are huge. Google and Yelp.
Google, Yelp reviews. Follow the page. As far as the CHD and stuff like that,
Augie has his own Instagram. It's at strong like Augie, 1G, strong like AUGIE.
And that can help bring awareness to the, maybe get some workers here for that, or a unit here for that, or something, right?
I mean, they desperately need cardiac care in Buffalo for kids.
Well, okay. Started my day off laughing and crying, and thank you so much for coming in. It meant a lot, and like I said, you were the first person that I was like, okay, I sat down. I was like, I really want, I have so many people, we come in here and we talk about real life shit like every day, and we cry together, and this is like how it goes. And I'm like, why not? Some people feel alone and they don't have to, because like we're all going through it too. So why not use like this to talk about like what we're going through and share it, so people don't feel so alone, or to help and stuff like that. So like I was saying, when I sat down, it was like, okay, what kind of things do I want to talk about and have people on and stuff like that? You were literally the first person to come to my mind.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, no,
I appreciate this. I don't get to really connect with a lot of people, so it feels it's nice to be able to talk about it.
Yeah,
because it was like something I buried for a long time, and it was a little chaotic, but I'm out of it now. So,
and I'd love to go out and have mocktails with you.
Listen, I'm all about the mocktails.
Yeah, there's alcohol doesn't taste good, so it's like all the other stuff in it that tastes good. I'm sure you have some. Are you going to have some on the menu?
Oh yeah, we have great mocktails on the menu.
So for people that don't drink, those are great places to go. And I really wanted to know what your favorite food item was. So that was good.
I think my favorite food items, obviously the milkshakes are.
Oh wait, yeah, actually that is one.
The cookies and cream milkshake is my go-to, very favorite, most amazing milkshake on the menu. It's like
I put, if your personality was a milkshake, what flavor would it be?
It would.
Maybe you love the cookies and cream, but would that be like?
I think, like, honestly, it would probably be it would, even though I don't drink, it would probably be the grasshopper because it has Rumplemans, and like anybody that drinks Rumplemans is a psychopath.
I know my friends say shout out to Dan. Hey, shout out to
So it would probably be our grasshopper milkshake that we make. We do boozy milkshakes, and
that sounds good.
That's me in a glass.
I think I would be. I don't know. I go towards like strawberries and cream kind of stuff sometimes.
Well, so we do have an ice cream cocktail called, oh my God, it's a margarita. And it's an ice cream cocktail made with strawberries and salt and tequila. It's delicious. So
yeah, awesome. Well, you got to go check out your lashes and brows. There's a big mirror over there.
Oh,
thanks everyone for listening. Thank you, Casey, for coming in.
oh my God, they look so